Well, good afternoon. My name is Kevin Minton, and I'm the owner and CEO of Chief Executive Boards International. And I'd like to thank you for taking time to join us today for our webinar on executive compensation planning. Chief Executive Boards is headquartered in Greenville, South Carolina, with executive peer advisory boards in multiple cities throughout the United States. And I'll be your host today. I'd like to invite you to stay tuned for future webinars on our website. You can see located at the bottom of this slide with www.chiefexecutiveboards.com. So before we dive straight into our main topic, you might be curious to learn more about CEBI. We're a boutique executive peer advisory service with local and national boards located throughout the eastern and midwestern states. And the purpose of CEBI is really to help CEOs, presidents, business owners to share ideas and experiences to avoid pitfalls and the potholes that many have already experienced. We are here to help steer you from reinventing the wheel within your own businesses. Essentially, it's where highly successful chief executives go to become more successful. So our members like to convene in face-to-face forums and receive unvarnished advice in a safe and confidential environment that's typically unavailable elsewhere. It's really kind of like having your own personal think tank. So as an example, we address what keeps you up at night. It's really items that you don't have an opportunity to discuss with anyone else. Our members can avail of local and national advisory board forums, attend educational summits. They have access to other CEBI members, our libraries, our workshops, and webinars such as the one today. Now, before we get started, I'd like to just mention a couple of housekeeping items. This webinar is going to last approximately 85 minutes. You can post your questions in the question panel box to the right of your screen, and they will be answered after the webinar session. This webinar is being recorded, and it will be made available for you to review on our website. At the end, we'll have a list of our contact details so that you can contact us or get in touch with any of the presenters today. So with that, let's get started with our webinar, Executive Compensation Planning. And what I'd like to do is introduce our guest presenter today, Mr. Chris Campbell. He is a financial representative with MassMutual in South Carolina, and he typically works with individuals and businesses, business owners on their benefit planning needs. And so at this point, I'll turn it over to Chris.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I appreciate it. Thank you to all who have attended this webinar. We know you'll gain some valuable insights to help your business grow. Just to kind of recap, I've been in business for 13 years, experiencing and designing financial programs for the business owners and CEOs of all types of businesses. Today we are going to focus in on attracting and retaining your key employees. I do want to let you know I've got two associates here with me today. We work together to bring in-depth experience in this specific area. First, we have Lynn Wyrick, who has experience in setting up and running and divesting small businesses. Her piece of this webinar is to really talk about the objectives of attracting and retaining these key employees. And then we have Bob Evans. He's a senior member of our team with 35 years of experience, including being president and CEO of 2 insurance companies. And he'll break down some good examples for us to gain further clarity on this topic. Give me just a second. I did. Trying to, where'd it go? So those are the topics we'll be covering today. I do want to let you know, this is just a disclaimer, let you know that we are not attorneys. We're not providing tax advice, but we are financial planners with some concepts that we know will help your business. We're going to look at the executive bonus plans from the point of view of the CEO and the owner, and also from the point of view of the key employees or executives. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Lynn.
Good afternoon, y'all. Yes, I'm going to speak to you regarding the perspective from the owner or the CEO. It is all about attracting and retaining and then succeeding our organizations with those key people. Let's face it, for most of us, that is our product. They actually make our organizations more valuable when we get ready to sell, and this is especially true if we have built in a plan to encourage them to stay past the purchase or the transition of our organization. On the screen, there's a few questions here that you may be thinking about. How can I set this up? How do I reward those top performers? There's a lot of selection that will go into deciding which ones will work. And a lot of y'all may be thinking that there's some complexity to these types of plans, but in actuality, they're very simple. And they're affordable, and one of the best parts is they can be designed in a way that is extremely flexible to meet the needs and the overheads of your organization. Now let's take it from a perspective of the executive themselves. Do you realize that many of our executives, our key employees, are actually discriminated against? If you look at this slide, when you consider an employee making $50,000 a year, and we look at the estimate of what Social Security would pay out in 2014, that represents 41% of that particular $50,000 a year employee's salary. However, when you consider an employee that's making $250,000 a year with the similar benefits estimated for 2014 Social Security benefits, that represents 13%. An executive bonus plan can actually help close that gap. This would also be true when we look at 401k deferral limits. An executive that would be making $250,000 a year is actually only able to defer 7% of their salary. When we look at $50,000 a year employee, they're able to defer $35,000. These plans can have various tax advantages, and they can be, as I mentioned earlier, completely flexible in their design. Consequently, they can be highly effective in both attracting and retaining those employees that make our organizations tick. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this particular slide, but I just want to mention that life insurance can be a component in an executive comp plan. And we do that for a couple reasons. Number one, it is a tax-advantaged vehicle, and it can be leaned against later on in retirement years and actually have a play of no tax, which we would need to get into the details of that. But it can be a very powerful tax-advantaged vehicle. It also can have multiple benefits. There's a death benefit, of course, to that component, and it can be set up in a split arrangement with the employer and the employee. However, if you're on this call and you're opposed to life insurance, there are other vehicles that we can use to set up an executive comp plan. Now, Bob is going to talk about more of the specifics of how these plans could be lined up.
Hey, thanks very much, Lynn, and good afternoon or good morning, depending on what time zone everybody is in. Yeah, I'm going to spend a little time sort of talking about the mechanics of an executive bonus plan. Lynn's just gone through and covered the objectives from the point of view of the owner and then the point of view of the key employee. An owner trying to retain a key employee and a key employee looking to supplement retirement income. But how does this work? And she did mention life insurance as a very common funding vehicle. So we're going to go through some of the mechanics of how one of these is set up. Just the basics of what is an executive bonus plan. Fundamentally, it's a fringe benefit. It's a benefit provided to an employee, a key employee, as part of their overall compensation arrangement. key employee has a base salary. They may have incentive compensation and bonuses. They have other benefits, medical, health and welfare, retirement plans. This is a potential supplement to all of that. It's an additional fringe benefit, frequently funded with whole life insurance. And we'll talk a little bit about the mechanics of the life insurance and how it plays out. The program is targeted to a select group of key executives and potentially also business owners. Some business owners are key executives, some are passive. So understanding the dynamics of the relationships is a key part of thinking through a plan and a plan design. But the select part is a critical item. The selection is so fine. Unlike a qualified retirement plan where participation is governed by the Department of Labor and the Internal Revenue Service. In this case, an executive bonus plan is not. You can be fully discriminatory. I can have one person in the plan. I can have 3 people in a plan. I can pick and choose who is in it. And I can also have a different structure for each individual employee. So it's providing a fringe benefit tailored to specific individuals. There are rules around not providing it to everybody. There are issues if you provide it to everybody, then it sort of starts to take on the attributes of a retirement plan. But the goal of this is to focus resources on retaining the key people that are absolutely critical to the success of your business and focusing the precious resources of the company on those folks. Third bullet point down is what's the other element of this bonus plan? It's a fringe benefit. It's targeting select groups of people. It really has 2 key elements. The way we have it on the slide is it provides protection during working years and supplemental income during retirement. We are going to have a disclaimer when we mention the supplemental income. The tax structure, the tax advantages of whole life insurance are basically based upon current tax law. So we're just going to have a disclaimer in that it's always based upon the current tax law. But looking at this third point from the point of view of the key executive, I actually think it's probably ordered the other way around. When I'm working with clients and working on cases and when I was running companies and dealing with trying to retain people, the issue that tends to be of more importance to your key executive is the supplemental retirement income issue, the one that Lynn alluded to. So when I'm presenting it to somebody or discussing it with an employer, an owner, to present to key employees, I think that you focus in on, I'm putting a plan in place, special targeting you because of your importance to my company, and I'm going to put a plan in place that supplements retirement income to close the gap that you're going to experience because you're highly compensated, because you're valuable. You're going to have a gap in your retirement income replacement because of the structure of Social Security and the structure of qualified retirement plans. So the first issue from the point of view of the employee, I think, is supplemental retirement income. But then the life insurance policy also has a death benefit, and in the structure of an executive bonus plan, that will be targeted as income replacement for the benefit of the key employee's family in the event the key employee, he or she, passes away during a working lifetime. I want you to be a part of my team. I want you to stay for a long time. I'm going to treat you in a special way. I'm going to put incentives in place. I just need you to stay, and I need you to perform in order to get the benefits out of this program. But in the event, through no fault of your own, you pass away, then your family is protected through the life insurance benefit for this same sort of structure. So from the point of view of the details of this, as we think it through from the point of view of the employee, is a supplemental retirement income that they can access if they stay with us according to the terms of an agreement. And then they also have additionally the protection during their working lifetime. So that's sort of the basic structure of an executive bonus plan. This next picture, I kind of want to go through how the pieces all fit, because we talk about various pieces. How do you put one together, and what does it look like? And so here we have sort of a schematic. And again, this is specifically an executive bonus plan. There are other designs that need similar but slightly different objectives. And I'm going to mention some of those as we go through this as well. But an executive bonus plan is basically, it's an agreement to 2 parties. There's a business or a business owner on the left-hand side, and then there's a key employee or an executive on the right-hand side. The business is expecting to get value out of the key employee. The key employee is hoping that they are rewarded for their unique contribution to the business. 2 parties come into an agreement that they can both benefit from a relationship between each other. Between them is a bonus agreement. It's basically in the middle of the chart at the top. The bonus agreement is basically a piece of paper. It's an agreement. It's free form. It's between an employer and a key employee. and it says, look, I'm paying you, in addition to whatever I'm doing for regular compensation, your W-2 or your W-2 income, your bonus income, everything else, we're going to have an additional agreement between the business owner or the business and the key employee. And this is kind of free form. You put into it what you want, and it will typically come in the nature of, I'm going to provide additional benefits to you, provided you deliver on some particular deliverables that I'm looking for. I want you to be here. I want you to stay and stay with us, and I may want you to hit certain targets over that time period. So at its simplest nature, it may say something like, we have a plan between the two of us, and it's going to vest 50% in 10 years, 75% in 15, and 100% in 20, or it's going to vest on retirement. And again, these bonus agreements, these agreements are between one person and the employer. So you can have different agreements for 3 different employees. I may have a 45-year-old, if I'm a 60-year-old business owner and I have a 45-year-old key executive that I need to retain, I'm hoping may become a successor owner down the road. She's 45 years old. I may structure one of these and be targeting a supplemental retirement income target at age 65. I want her to stay through 20 years, and my transition may occur 10 or 15 years out, but I want her to stay as my business associate, as a key partner, but then also stay through for successor owners, of which she may become one. So that's one structure. I may have a 30-year-old bright millennial who's got some core skill that I need in my business, and I look at this person and I say, retirement at 65 is so far out, they're not really thinking about that. I might have a program that basically vests and they get 1 times their current income if they're here in the 10th year. Again, that would be the kind of structures get tailored around the business need and the key individuals that are in the operation. So at this point, we have an agreement. We have an agreement between a business owner and an executive. It's a piece of paper. As we go down the left-hand side under the business, and we talk about a life insurance policy, or as Lynn mentioned previously, it can be other things. Life insurance policy or other assets are a funding mechanism to back up the bonus agreement. If I have an agreement with a key employee, or I'm a key employee and I have an agreement with my business owner, and it's a piece of paper, then it's basically a trust issue that the money is going to be there when I deliver on my end or the key employee's end of the agreement. The life insurance policy, other assets, become the funding mechanism. So basically, the life insurance policy tends to get used very often, as Lynn alluded to, because of the current tax law allows for the tax-free buildup of the living benefit or the cash value within an insurance policy. The other thing that frequently shows up is that there is actually a need for a life insurance benefit. Life insurance policy has a benefit on death. It's building up cash value that's accessible while somebody is alive. The cash value buildup inside the policy, or the asset buildup, is the funding vehicle or the funding mechanism for supplemental retirement income. The life insurance need can actually vary. In the case of an executive bonus plan, the life insurance need is to replace income for the benefit of the family of an unexpectedly deceased employee. But the life insurance can actually, in other structures, meet other objectives. And there tend to be, it generally are 3 potential uses of life insurance within a business / owner or employee kind of structure. The death benefit can replace income of an executive for the benefit of the family, as we've been mentioning. But another potential use of life insurance would be as in the form of a key man life insurance benefit, where the business suffers a loss because of the loss of a key employee. And the third use of it can be when you have owners, can be for funding owner exits or buy-sell agreements. So that's sort of the tailoring of the structuring of a plan. This executive bonus plan that we're describing today in detail is the first of all of those. It's saying the primary objective of this program is to attract, retain, motivate, incent a key executive. And so the benefits of this policy are being paid to the executive's family in the event the executive passes away. The life insurance cash value, which builds up in the policy, is basically going to be set up to be available on some vesting schedule as contained in the bonus agreement to be then vested and become accessible by the executive when they hit certain targets. Think of them as time targets is sort of the simplest one. The structure of this agreement, and again, there are different natures to them. In this executive bonus agreement, the executive is actually is the owner of the insurance policy, but just has a restriction on access to the cash assets that are available. The restrictions are contained in the bonus agreement. So the executive is actually receiving earned income at this point, and at the moment the executive is earning the income, the business is getting a tax deduction. The two tend to sync up. You either get a tax deduction for the business, you get a tax deduction for the business when the executive takes receipt of the policy or control. So the executive in this case is actually paying taxes. And many times in these situations in the bonus agreement, there's an additional element to the bonus agreement where there's some cash going to the executive today in order to pay their withholding taxes. So the structure is at its core is just an agreement between a business and an owner and a funding mechanism so that the money is there, one, so the business has it, and two, so the executive knows that it's going to be there. It's sort of the way these things play out. Again, they can be structured different ways with proceeds on death going in different directions. The assets can be retained by the business. Generally, those differences will change the tax incidence of who gets a deduction and who gets the receipt of it. But those become sort of the design elements to think about. What am I trying to do with my business? And in this particular case, the decision at the front end is my number one issue is I need to retain one or more select key people and put something in place that's going to tie them to my business and tie them to my business success. So I'm going to go a little bit more quickly. I want to go through that, just the chart with the picture. I think is probably the easiest way to sort of absorb and think about, how these work. But just to remind you on some of these, again, this is on the executive bonus plan. What are the benefits to the business? Just repeating this. It's an effective recruiting and retention tool. I'm going to give a specific example of that has come up more recently, come up quite a bit more recently, is with some of the changes in health insurance with the Affordable Care Act. The burden of dealing with health benefits is getting increasing attention among small business owners. And we have several now that are in chatting with us about being able to offer a select supplemental retirement income benefit to particular people they're recruiting as an offset for not having a group health insurance plan. Their view is, most of my employees will take the job because they need it. They'll go under the Affordable Care Act on the government plan. But I've got some of these key people who feel pressure either internally or from their spouses that they need to get health insurance. You don't want to put a health insurance plan in place for everybody in order to attract 3 people. So we have folks who are sitting down now working with us, putting in a special program to help recruit and attract those core people, that it's something different. When you as an employer are approaching somebody, the competitors that are trying to recruit these same people frequently don't have a program like this in place. And it just comes across as you thought about me as being special and unique in terms of the contribution I can make to your company. So it's a selective benefit. The key part about being selective is it increases cost efficiency, as I was just stating. If you can focus your resources on targeted people, as opposed to spreading a benefit across everybody, you can get a bigger bang for the buck, provided you're kind of lining up, thinking about who are my key employees, why are they key, who are the people that I need to focus resources on. The executive bonus plan that we're describing right now is easy to implement and administer. It's typically designed right. It's not subject to Department of Labor regulations. It doesn't require generally a specific plan. It's a single piece of paper agreement between the employer and the employee. And then the funding of it is done just typically through an insurance policy, but you avoid all of the benefit plan administration, filing, and compliance kinds of issues. There's an immediate income tax deduction in this case because the control over the policy is in the hands of the key employee. It's always subject to reasonable compensation limits. I mean, all the general rules around deductible business expenses apply. In the design in that agreement between the between the employer and the employee, provides significant flexibility. You can put items in those and tailor them by each individual employee, and they can be based on tenure. Some can be targeting retirement age, some can be targeting 10 years out, they can be different amounts. Each of those are individually decided upon based on the needs of the employer. So, and you can have performance objectives in that as well. We have clients that are there, and it's, you know, there's a certain target, but the target will go, the contribution will go up 50% if the business is hitting a growth and earnings target that the team is looking for. So again, it's a way to sort of get people, get these key executives invested in the ownership and the success of our businesses. To the executive, what are the benefits? The executive sitting there saying, I've got this promise that I'm going to get value coming down the road. I've got an agreement with my employer. I actually own the policy. It feels a little better and a little safer knowing that I own the policy, and so that if I comply with this benefit agreement, then the asset is there and I can just get access to that asset. The death benefits are generally income tax free for the executive's beneficiaries. You've got to follow the appropriate compliance rules, but in general, appropriately structured life insurance policies, the death benefit is income tax free. There's tax advantage growth and access to the supplemental income. As we talked before, the superscript there is just referring back to the disclaimer based on current tax law. Another thing is, from the point of view of the executive, is the benefits that are in this plan are not subject to the claims of the business's creditors, which is an exposure in many executive benefit arrangements. So in terms of presenting the value of this to the key employee is to say, look, you're in control of this asset. This asset is not subject to the business risk of our business. It's only subject to you complying with this separate agreement. So these are things that just make it feel, you know, a little more comfortable for key executives. That could be more important in a smaller or younger business, but it's an issue that can be on the minds of key executives all the time. And so just sort of summarizing it from all points of view, an executive bonus plan, it can help reward top performers. It's actually attract, retain, and reward top performers. It can address, for the point of view of the key executive, a retirement income need and an income protection need for the benefit of their family while they're working. It can help reduce or eliminate the executive's after-tax costs, the buildup inside the insurance policy and the income coming out of it, structured properly from the executive's point of view, can be done so it's income tax-free at retirement. And the plan in total can create a strong incentive for this important person to stay with your company, and the ability to focus in the resources on targeted employees and to be able to tailor a plan to your particular needs and to particular employees can help you stay within an expense budget. I'm trying to run my business. I need to make sure I'm focusing resources in the most critical area, and on the human resources side, this helps you focus resources on the key employees you choose. So just kind of a summary of what we covered today with Chris and Lynn and now myself is a critical business challenge that many businesses are facing. You can ask yourself, am I facing this, and in what form and what fashion, and how does this fit for me? But the business challenge is getting the right people, the key right people in the right spots with the right incentives and with the right continuity to help move my business along. From the executive or key employee's point of view is I'm getting supplemental retirement income and income protection for my family. This company, this owner is showing that they're investing in me. They see me as being a key part of their vision of growing and moving things forward. And then the executive bonus plan is probably the simplest form of design for addressing this kind of issue. It's simple, effective, flexible, limited filing requirements. It's always a budget issue. It's a resource issue. It's a business decision whether I'm going to get a return on the funds I'm putting into this for this employee. But it's simple, focused, and can be very cost effective. And so with that, let me kind of open it up. I understand that questions can be coming into the moderator, and Chris, Lynn, and myself will do our best to answer whatever questions you all might have. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. We appreciate that. We do have several questions from the attendees. The first one is from Jordan, and his question is, what happens if an owner is also a key employee?
Yeah, let me take that one. If an owner is also a key employee, the kind of step-back question that we would ask and work through with the business owners, let's understand the ownership structure, and let's understand this individual from what's their ownership perspective and what's their key employee role within the company. And you can get a whole slew of a variety of different ways that can play out. If it's a minority owner, I have a 20% owner who is also a key executive, then the whole retention issue can actually come into play. I need to retain this person. They're an owner, but I need to retain them. If it's a 50% owner, then the retention issue isn't quite as big a deal. If you have two partners that are 50-50 owners, it's not that big a deal to be trying to retain each other as business partners. But the supplemental retirement income issue is still there. I may want to say that, hey, I'm an owner and a worker. My partner is an owner and a worker, and we're in this together with all of you who are the key executives. We're in this very same plan that you're in is another key element. But you know,
I would also add that you would want to look at the tax structure of the actual organization itself too. Is it a C Corp, an S Corp, a partnership? Because though we're not CPAs or attorneys, we would want to make sure that we're maximizing that and reducing any, additional taxation. So there's a lot of ways to be creative in the design, but taxes would be a big element of structuring that. Does that answer your question?
I believe that would.
I can't
They can't respond. But the next question is from Sydney, and Sydney asks, how does this plan fit with a succession strategy?
Yeah, again, it can really be built into that. A planner will tend to, an advisor will look at the organization as a whole. They're going to look at the P&Ls, the balance sheets, the tax returns of that organization. They're going to get involved in evaluating the business for its monetary worth across various different structures and strategies, with goodwill, without goodwill, in a liquidation situation, with capitalization components in there. And then they're going to piece by piece structure what are the opportunities that are out there today with our competition, with our existing structure, and work with the CEO, the president of the company, to align plans that will look at various ways to reward and retain those folks. When you're actually getting, an example Bob was mentioning, if we have a 60-year-old executive, or business owner, and we have a 45-year-old key executive, the old 401k plan that rewards at 59.5 or 65 or 70, whatever the target is not as attractive as something that we can build that would have a 10-year carrot, so we say. And if the 60-year-old CEO is looking for an exit in 5 years, but the plan that we structure actually works with that key employee for 10 years, the potential buyer of that organization is going to look at the organization in a different light, knowing that there is a very significant carrot for that key team to latch onto that will take him or her past the exit of the CEO of the organization.
Yeah, let me just add another thought on ownership transition. Any key employee can be a potential successor owner or a part of a successor ownership team. And most key employees are of value to the business entity as a going concern. So to me, it can kind of play out two ways, when we think about it two ways. One is, as a potential successor owner, and when we advise people on sort of planning for long-term exit strategies, is you're never sure exactly what path is going to work out. You want to be positioned to be able to handle different paths. But having owners grow internally inside your company is one objective. And so one of the ways these plans can get structured is for some targeted successor key employees, successor owner key employees, is that the buildup in the asset value in the bonus plan becomes an asset which can be used to help fund an ownership transfer. Even to the degree we've had some plans where the owner will offer a discount on the value of the stock because they like this key employee, you know, a 5% discount, but these funds are now available. So it can be a buildup of some funding capability for a younger generation management team to take over, or younger generation key executive or employee to become part of a transition ownership team. The other big issue is from the point of view of a buyer. A buyer could be an outside buyer, and we advise people that having your key executives or your key employees tied to the business through a benefit which is not yet vested is a very powerful signal to a buyer that the going concern value of this business is going to be maintained. You've got three key, your key guys, the owner, you got three key people working for you. I'm trying to buy you. How do I know that this business is going to stay together? Because a lot of it is in the heads of the relationships of four key people. Being able to say, you know, as a selling owner, you can say, well, I'll commit to an agreement. But then I also have these three key employees, and they have a significant give up if they were to leave. Again, it's a strong positioning chip to have your company set up that way and be able to describe that to a potential outside buyer. So just a couple of additional thoughts.
That's a great answer. Thank you, Bob. Let's do one more. We've got a question from Dave, and his question is, can the business keep the assets on its balance sheet?
Yeah, actually, I almost mentioned that the design can get a little, it can be set up a couple different ways, and yes, the answer is yes. And a lot of organizations are sensitive about their balance sheet, not just for the purposes of retention, but also for, you know, booking lines of credit and for purchasing, et cetera. So if the business maintains ownership of the vehicle, it's a brokerage account, it's a life insurance policy, whatever that is, yes, it is on the balance sheet of the book. And the structure and the design is just a little, it just has a different twist to it. But in a lot of organizations right now, we are in some pretty challenging times. They want to keep that cash on hand. There actually are some unique products out there that allow the cash to be retained at very, very high levels too in an organization, which we would get into if we were, you know, meeting with a particular person one-on-one. So yes, can be set up that way.
Thank you, Lynn. And that is all the questions we have at this point. Kevin, I will turn the webinar back over to you.
Okay, thank you, Robin. And let me just remind you that this webinar is being recorded and can be sent to you in the form of a web link via email. And so the webinar today was hosted by Chief Executive Boards, and I'd like to invite you to visit our website for additional insights and upcoming events such as the webcast that you've visited today. I'd like to just thank our presenters, Chris Campbell and Bob Evans and Lynn Wyrick today. And I want to just say I hope that you have found this to be helpful to you and your business. And I want to invite you to contact Chief Executive Boards with any questions. And also, I want to invite you to please join us for future webinars. A list and a schedule of those are on our website. And so we look forward to speaking with you regarding future engagements. And I want to also just wish you all a great week ahead. And here's a couple of dates for our upcoming webcast that you'll see in April and in June. And so please be sure to stay tuned for those as well. So with that, this concludes our webinar. And thank you and farewell.